Welcome. I'm Patrolman Craig Hoover with the Project 18 Community Policing Unit of the East Brunswick Police Department. In this edition of Street Smart, we'll be talking on the topic of drug addiction and prevention. Today joining me is Joel Palmales, who is a local recovery advocate, and John Regan, who is an addiction consultant. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today.
It's good to be here.
Thanks for having me.
I've known you both personally for a while now. Can you each tell us a little bit about your stories or your personal addiction stories?
Sure. Well, for me, I'm a longtime resident of East Brunswick. I just want to let that be known. I moved here when I was about 6 years old. I'm 29 now. I lived here for about 23 years. And, I was a normal kid. I was kind of a little bit of a troublemaker, kind of always hung out with like the bad kids. The kids who started smoking weed at a young age, and that's just how I got into it, just to fit in. It's what my friends were doing, and it was fun. And it was fun when I tried it, I really enjoyed it, and it was a party, and it was like that for a few years until the trouble started. I didn't know that I was prone to addiction. I didn't know that I could become an addict. I kind of had like a preconceived image of what an addict was, like somebody who's homeless, living in the streets, that uses a certain substance. I didn't think that could become me. And after a few years, eventually using drugs just took over my life. It was all that I cared about. It took everything from me. School wasn't important, my family wasn't important, and it just completely controlled my life. It turned into a disease. I didn't know that after so many years of using that it would restructure my brain and change the way that I think and behave. It became an illness. And I learned that after I came into recovery.
My issue was alcohol. About 10 years ago, I went through a divorce that I didn't see coming. And I found vodka to be a very good coping mechanism. Mm-hmm. And I went on almost a 5-year run with it. Didn't see it coming, didn't know that I had the potential to become an alcoholic. Because when I was younger, I would go to a wedding, get drunk. I'd go to a family barbecue, get drunk. But I didn't drink every day. I had a family down in Jackson, New Jersey, and had my own business. So I just functioned normally. And then when that divorce hit, I just turned to the bottle, and it just takes a hold of you. Progression takes over. The life as you have known is over. That's how bad it gets. I myself was homeless for about 6 weeks, living out of a van. That's how bad it can get. And the progression just takes over, and year by year, you're slowly killing yourself. And you ask people for help. People just don't understand. What the addict actually goes through. It's not all fun and games for them. They want the help, but for some reason they can't. And I can't tell you how many times that I put that bottle to my mouth and I hated myself, and you just do it anyway. The best way for me to explain addiction is being held underwater, and you're fighting for that breath. That's how bad you need that drink or drug. You're being held underwater, and you just want that air so bad.
Now, if someone out there is questioning whether someone they know is using drugs or alcohol and is potentially becoming addicted, what kind of signs or symptoms would they potentially look for?
In high school, it's usually grade slipping, different friends. As a parent, look for, potentially needle marks. Look for medications missing, out of the medicine cabinet is pretty important. And what I've noticed, one of the most important things, look for jewelry being stolen. Because it seems like there's a pattern, because you need money for the drug. Right. So what you'll find is they'll start selling their own things first, like their Xbox or music or video games. Right. And then jewelry, sister's jewelry, mom jewelry, everybody's jewelry.
Grandparents.
And then it progresses into actually stealing on the outside, getting arrested. As far as like being an adult or in college, being late for work, not showing up at work, getting fired, relationship issues, not getting along with everybody. Those are the major signs that I've seen.
At least with the kids, like nobody knows their kids better than their parents. You know what I mean? Like if it seems like something's up, smells like something's up, something's up. It's really important to have those awkward conversations. You know, we're so quick to avoid that awkward conversation, the uncomfortable conversation. We need to have it. This is preventable. You know what I mean? It can be stopped before it gets really out of hand. So it's really important to address that and to not enable. You know what I mean? It's not okay to be getting high. It's not okay to promote kids drinking or using anything that's illegal. So it's important to do something about it. And you know, like John said, you know, just changes in friends, changes in behaviors. You know, if you find any paraphernalia, you find little baggies, plastic baggies around the house, or pipes, or anything that you know, it's probably not their friends like they say it is.
Right.
It probably is theirs, and there's probably something going on that really needs to be addressed right away.
When someone has a friend or family member who's fighting a battle of addiction, what kind of treatment options do they have, John?
Yeah, there's two options. There's outpatient, and what outpatient is, it's seeing a counselor.
Okay.
At a facility. You're able to still work or go to school. A lot of programs are at night, and they're usually, depending on the insurance, 3 to 4 times a week. But you actually go to where the counselors are. You have group meetings sometimes. There's a lot of one-on-one therapy sessions, and a lot of drug testing too, usually about once a week, to make sure that you're not using. Because if you do fail while you're in an IOP, that's intensive outpatient, usually you go to inpatient, which is your other option, and that's a treatment center. You need to be detoxed, and a rehab. Most programs are, usually between 30 to 90 days.
Okay.
And what I usually prefer is, if the inpatient is the option, to get them out of the area as far away as possible, because the triggers in addictions, it's the people, places, and things. So getting that person away from everything, everyone, and get them out of the area, because a lot of times what people will do is they'll call, a parent or a loved one. Oh, I can't stand it. They're not treating me right here.
Right.
When you're 1,000 miles away, the cavalry's not coming.
Joel, once someone goes through treatment, what's the next step with regard to like recovery?
Well, it depends really on the individual. I know for me, a big thing was the people, places, and things. I growing up, and for a long time, I kind of surrounded myself with people who were up to no good, who weren't really doing much of anything with themselves. So I needed to get with some positive people who were doing some good stuff, people who were working, who were going to school, being responsible. I needed to learn how to do that stuff. So a big part of it is also to get into some type of recovery program where people go to support meetings and have other people in their lives who are in recovery who can show them, kind of lead them along in their process. Anything, there's Smart Recovery, there's Life Ring, there's Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, all volunteer recovery programs that are free. There's no charge for them, that people just go to weekly or whatever the schedule is for that program, and just focus on whatever it is with the individual. Like I said, I'm a full-time student now. I dropped out of high school. I was a high school dropout. Now I'm a straight A college student pursuing a PhD in psychology.
Right.
I'm a supervisor for a county program. I never really worked before I came into recovery. I didn't have any work experience. So focusing on that stuff, a lot of people need to focus on family, on the relationships. Usually a lot of damage has been done in those areas. To rebuild that, to just become a normal person of society and learn how to deal with feelings in a healthy way, so they don't fall back into old behaviors.
What are some other groups that people can look to for assistance? Is every insurance going to allow you to get into these groups?
No, and that's a really good question. A lot has to do with the insurance, as far as, if you can even leave the area. I mean, if you have an HMO insurance, you have to stay in the state. Sometimes you can go, into Pennsylvania. There's a few facilities right over the border where an HMO would allow, but again, it depends on the policy.
Okay.
But insurance plays a big factor in where you can go, because some insurances might have you do an IOP first. If you fail that, then you can go into the inpatient.
Okay.
But yeah, insurance plays a big part of it. If you have no insurance, and this is pretty important, people think, okay, I have no insurance, I have no money, the situation is hopeless. It's really not hopeless. There's a lot of state funding. There's a lot of people who care. The important thing is to reach out.
What other advice can you give people who are struggling now with addiction?
For people, family members who have people who are struggling, You know, like you said about the treatment stuff, you know, there is something called an intervention. You know, you could have an intervention specialist come in and do an intervention to really get somebody ready to go in, kind of leave it with an option. You know, this is it, we're not going to support you anymore. It's either go get some help, or we can't really be there for you like that anymore until you make the decision to get well. And just to really, you know, just to know that recovery is possible. For a long time, I didn't think I was ever going to change. I thought I was going to die living the way that I was living. I never thought that I could have a good life. I didn't think I deserved it, or I didn't think it was for me. You know, I didn't, because of the hand that I was dealt in life, a whole bunch of excuses. So just that, you know, it is possible, you know, that, you know, we can change.
Addiction is a family disease. It's just not the addict that struggles. Whole families get torn apart. And I was sitting home and, you know, just watching TV, and I came up with the idea to come up with a family support group in town. So rather than doing nothing, let me give back to the community. And what I did was I formed a family support group called Families Against Substance Abuse. We're here at the East Brunswick Library every first and third Monday of every month. And it's for family members who have someone that's addicted. They can come in, share stories, get resources, anything they would need. Because I'm a really good resource, because that's what I do. I know all the resources in New Jersey where family members can come in, share stories amongst one another, get support, and get education and knowledge. Because most families think they're alone, and they're really not. I mean, it's a big problem. Every 19 minutes, somebody accidentally dies of a prescription overdose in the United States. That's almost 40,000 a year. We can do better than that, and we are. There's people out there who are in the recovery movement, prevention, treatment. There's a lot of help out there, and I just want families to know that the help is there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you both for being with me today and sharing this important information, and also thank you for being such great advocates. Wish you continued success in your own personal, recoveries. So I want to thank everybody for joining us here today on Street Smart, and remember to stay safe and be street smart.